Welcome, one and all, to another edition of Run the Block, brought to you by the Live Rich Project. We still don't have a celebrity intro, but AI is improving, Michael. So very soon, I think the $5 Morgan Freeman voice will be available. Now that AI has stolen Scarlett Johansson's voice, I think we're right there on the cusp.
Yeah, the only question is, do you lead with Morgan Freeman or Matthew McConaughey? There's not a wrong answer. You just got to choose one and go.
Let's do a community poll. You guys tell us, and we'll see how close AI can get to Morgan Freeman or Matthew McConaughey's voice before we get sued. So we'll leave it up. Community decision. That's how this democratic process works. You guys vote. We then see if we get sued. We've got an action-packed show today for you. We have a listener Q&A on engagement, which is new follow. Very great question. And you actually have a little mind map for us built out, which is always super helpful for somebody like me. Needs a good visual. We also have consumer psychology. There's an interesting poll I saw go up asking people if they would prefer a discount, a cheaper rate as far as like a loan when it comes to a new car or a few other things. And the results were pretty interesting to me. We also have a story, unfortunately, I think, from the Daily Mail, which talks about young men and their lack of will to want to work. And we have a few other queued up, but we're on a tight schedule today, so I'll leave those in case we actually can't get to those. Where do you want to start today, Michael?
You know what? Let's go ahead and hop into the Q&A on new follower and what should I do, and then we have a mind map on. It was related to someone asked us about what post to boost and how to create a funnel from that, and so I think we should probably start there and dive in, and then we can move on.
Perfect. You heard it here first. We're going to go straight into the goods. No teasing today, guys. Michael's ready. He's just like giving all the goods away right away. Cool. Let's get into it then. So this was from a question that we had during one of our trainings, and so I'll let you kind of take it away. But it was just based around, they were asking, when you do get a new follow or you get a story view or something along those lines, how do you communicate? What do you do? And then can you increase your reach?
Yep. So the map you guys see in front of you is related to this person's second part of the question. So we can dive into the first question that they asked. And so it was in the context of Instagram. When you get a new follower, what's the best way to engage with them? Is it to A, have the autoresponder set up so we get the new follower and then the autorespond message goes out? Or is it B, to do the manual thing? When this person asked the question, Cam gave the right answer, which is, of course, yes. The answer is yes, because context always depends. And all of these things work. It's just a question of, do you work, right? So you can go ahead and set up your autoresponder. Feel absolutely free to. But what we want to do is get to a point where we're making data that's driven on decisions, right? We don't want to be making any decisions based on our gut feeling. This is something that we discuss often on this show. And so if you are the person you're considering putting together automation and some automatic responses, what we would suggest is go ahead and test that and collect your data. And so the first time we want to look at things is we want to figure out, okay, great. When I have sent 100 of these autoresponders, we need to look at the rest of the data as it's happened from there, right? So we get the new follower on Instagram, they follow us, the responder happens. And so the first thing we're going to look at is replies, right? Essentially, we're just testing. We don't know what works best for us and our audience until we test things. And so after we've sent our 100 automated responses, our first metric, how many people are replying back to us? Over the last several years, more and more automations have come into play, and so they become more commonplace, especially if you're someone who's trying to grow a service-based business. And so that means that the audience out there, the market gets a little bit more sophisticated because they're used to these things. And so people 2 years ago who didn't know that this is an automated message may now realize after they've gotten hundreds of them that this is an automated reply. They may not reply to you, right? And so that's why the very first metric we're going to test when it's an automated reply system is how many replies back do we get? If we send 100 autoresponders, are we getting 15 replies, 20 replies, 25 replies, 30, right? We want that metric. We want to understand how many messages we have to send and how many replies we're going to get from there. From that, the second thing that we want to look at is after they reply, we're going to move into conversation. How many calls are we booking from that, right? Once we move someone into chat, into a more intimate setting, away from the public eye, how many calls are we booking? Are we booking 5 out of those 25? Are we booking 8? What's our metrics? And then finally, we're looking for show rate and close. And if we start to understand our data, we can then start to scale this up and know that, okay, if I send 150 messages and I'm now getting 40 replies, right? What we're looking to do is scale the strategy until it breaks, because at some point the law of diminishing returns comes in, right? The way that I explain this is the very first day that you go to the gym, you've kicked in the law of diminishing returns because you're working towards your natural limitations in your body. To go past that, you need to introduce certain external factors so we can blow past our genetic potential. And so the first time you go into the gym, the law of diminishing returns kicks in. It's the same thing. We can't necessarily scale and just assume that, okay, if I send 1,000 messages, I'm going to get the same amount of return down the line. And the goal of this is to understand the efficacy of this strategy in the first place. But after we establish a baseline, okay, I send 100 messages, I get 25 replies, I book 10 calls, 5 of them show, 2 of them close. Okay, I have to send 100 messages to get 2 new clients, right? But after we establish that baseline, we can observe the efficacy over time. And if we see show rate going down, we can look at our nurture process and say, is something broken in there? If the response rate goes down, we can look and say, is something wrong with the automation itself? Or do we need to, play around with whatever the welcoming message is? And so at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what strategy you choose. If you choose that automated, or if you choose, I'm going to send a personal message, I'm going to send a voice memo, I'm going to send a video message like I used to do whenever I got a new follower. The goal is to just determine what strategy you want to utilize. Get to your law of 100, right? Where we have 100 of that thing so we can start to look at the data. And then from there, it's about figuring out the continuous improvement strategies within each step of your funnel. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone out there. And what you're looking at now is a visual representation of that. And so the back end was the person was asking about, paid ads and boosted posts and things of this nature. So they said that they had a boosted post that was to, I'm looking for 5 women who want a blank and blank days. And we call that a 5130. We advise against that. When you throw money behind a coaching offer, you got to understand a coaching offer is very, very high intent, right? It's not like people are just sitting there in a normal state and then they see an ad that's like, hey, we're going to get you looking great in 90 days. And they just make a buying decision right then and there. That's not the case, right? And so because of that, we have to very strategically choose what we're going to put out there when it's time to grow the audience to boost. And so what you see is a funnel that we just briefly went over with this person, showing how we can boost a certain post. In this case, it's going to be a case study. And if you want, if you've had problems like this person, if you want results like this person, all of the testimonial things that we put out there, right? Let's boost this instead of a coaching offer, because again, we've already spoken about it. A coaching offer is very difficult to get people into when it's cold. It doesn't have a start date, doesn't have an end date. We don't know how much it's going to cost, all the things. So we don't run paid ads to coaching offers. We don't run boosts to coaching offers. Instead, we run them to something that's going to resonate with the audience and then nurture. We had talked about potentially from that boost, this person throwing their traffic inside of a free group, whether that's on Circle, whether that's on Facebook, whatever the case may be. That's up to you as the individual, moving into a challenge, right? A free challenge so they can sample what it is that you do. And now from there, we move them into a nurture sequence where we try to get them on a call to ultimately get them to become a paying client. And if they don't do that, they just fall back into the nurture sequence. And so this is a visual representation of kind of some of the things that we were talking about earlier. And so this is where we want to know, when we boost the post, how many new people are seeing it, how many people who aren't currently in our audience, how many followers did we get out of this, how many comments did we get out of this, how many people from that interaction then join the group, right? And so we can start to look at any of the things we do. We can start to break down the data out of those people who joined the group. How many did we get into that challenge? Right? Out of the people who joined the challenge, how many got into conversation with us behind closed doors? How many calls were we able to book? And so this is just a visual representation of a very simple way for you to lay out your processes so you can kind of start to understand the steps in the middle ground, because the middle ground are the things that we can fix. Our nurture process. How skilled are we at chat? Did we go through the AAA method? Do we know how to triage? Have we been through a sales process training for a sales call, right? Like all of these things then become the points that we start to inspect as the people who are, kind of operating this machine that we're building to build our business. These are the things we're going to start to inspect to see the data and see what's doing well and see what's not. And then we can incrementally just improve our processes. And as we improve each one of these processes, as we put up a testimonial with better written copy, as we have a better strategy to engage people when they come into the group, as we put together a free challenge that's engaging, rewarding, and empowering, and there's definitely certain ways that you can do that, we start to put all of these parts together and we start to build our machine. And at the end of the day, that's the goal. And so it doesn't matter if you're the person who's going to curate every message personally, if you're going to use something like ManyChat or another software that sends autoresponder messages. At the end of the day, it's about what's working for you, what's working with your audience. And so anything will work as long as you do. You just need to choose your direction. You need to stick with it for a little while so you can start to get the numbers up, so we can start to look at the data, so we can see what's working, see what's not working. The stuff that's not working, we throw it out. The stuff that is working, we focus on that. And this is how we incrementally improve our business day after day, week after week, quarter over quarter. I know this was kind of a lot of information that was compressed, and we're happy to discuss this in a deeper dive. If anyone wants to go into this stuff, reach out on Instagram and we'll happily go in deeper. But for now, we just want to give you guys a visual representation of ways that you can set up your funnels and then the things we're looking for so we can get into testing. I hope this makes sense. Cam, what do you got?
Yeah, if you're listening to the audio version, highly suggest watching the visual, because it'll make a lot more sense as to what Michael was just unpacking there. So, a few things. If you're getting just followers in general, or wanting to know how to engage with people from your story, that's where Michael was mentioning the audio, possibly video, or just a message in general. So there were some different hacks and tools and tricks you could use for bot automation. Most of that is just not allowed. And usually, like when you find the new thing, it works for a while, and then Instagram, Facebook says not anymore. For instance, not too long ago, right, all the bots were liking people's stories. Most people didn't even know that was going on, but it was a software that was utilized, and all the bots were liking people's stories. And then why? Well, because everyone's slightly a narcissist, you go look who's looking at my stories, right? And you see like the 3 people who liked it, and you're like, I don't know this person. So you go look at their profile. Who's this person? And they're like, oh, they're a coach. So it was this, gambit to kind of get, people to follow you because they were liking your stories. And, in the background, it was actually just a bot and software based on who you said, hey, go follow people like this. So to my knowledge, there's probably something out there that is working, but that doesn't go against terms and conditions with Facebook, with Meta. there isn't anything that I know of that can automatically send messages anymore based on follows. So that's going to have to be a manual send, and probably should, so it doesn't also go um, to spam, right? We've all seen our request folder light up with the crypto people, with the real estate people, with the investment people. That's where that goes. And that's if you're not following each other, that's what happens. But if somebody views your story and you reply, you have to reply in the actual story view mode. It'll actually go to their inbox and you get one message. So that's a key thing is if you're going to followers, great, just send them a message, send them an opener like we talked about. Shout out to the AAA. We just launched it this week. If you don't know what that is, I don't even have it up in my story. Go find it on MMU stuff. It's basically the AAA method on chat conversions and how you book calls with ease on pre-sold clients. So engagement is huge for that, right? We know Instagram is tracking engagement. So depends on how you're starting this process. We started this off with a boosted post. Some of you guys aren't there yet, which is fine. Either way, it still works if you just send new followers or any follower in general messages. The other part of that is story views. People that are viewing your story, send them a message inside of that story view so it goes directly to the inbox, doesn't get caught in spam or anything else crazy like that. And then this process will start to work. So I think you're spot on the boosted posts. I think a lot of people get scared to try and boost. It's very easy to start $5, $10 a day for 3 to 5 days and just see what's your reach say. It'll tell you right on the ad if you got story views, if you got post views, if you got profile views, if they clicked around the links that you have. Now, how accurate are those? Take it with a grain of salt. But it is pretty robust on the alleged tracking and what it will tell you. And so you'll see very quickly if you're sending people to a site to download something, if it's working or not. Usually when we boost, it's again going to 90+% of people who don't follow us, who don't really interact with us. So as you mentioned, we send them to a top of funnel type deal where it's a download to capture their information to then be able to contact them again in the future. Because if you just boost a post, most people, statistically speaking, don't like things. They may send it to a friend if it hits home or it's a meme, but they usually don't comment either. We're all so scared for someone else to see our comments or our likes. We're like, between the government or a competitor, right? There's no in between. We just don't want anyone to see it. I don't want people to know I watch this, I like this. No one at all. So I do want to reiterate, watch the breakdown, guys. This will be up on X later on. Do watch the breakdown. It is a quick one. If you guys like each one of those little stopping points that you had, free group, right? The nurture process, the sales call, like each one of those is a 4-hour deep dive alone. And this was a quick hit, but I think this is something that people can easily take away and then have the courage and confidence to go ahead and start using.
Yeah, man, I hope so. And the other thing that I want to point out is this should be part of a periodized approach to building your business, right? When we're thinking of boosting posts, Cam, you're talking about top of funnel. This is how we think of audience growth, right? Getting your message out there into the masses who don't follow you. And so if you haven't boosted, we would definitely suggest starting to experiment with that because it's a great way to increase your reach. As he said, every time we boost, we see this going to, it's over 90% of non-followers. And so in order to engage people, you have to bring them into your audience in the first place. So if you haven't done this, we would highly suggest just playing around for a week with boosting and see what it does. And again, review your data, test it out, put something else out the next week and go A or B. Which one of these things work better? Just like going to the optometrist. Which one of these is clear, this or that? Don't be afraid to test. It doesn't cost you too much. Consider it an investment up front that's going to bring you a return on investment later. So just final thoughts with that.
And do want to mention they changed the boosting framework. So if you go through Apple now or your iPhone, they charge you more. Go to Instagram on your computer and just go to Instagram.com, log in, and go to Boost a Post. If not, they charge you an absurd amount of money because Apple charges them and gets a cut. So now they pass that on to you. It used to be super easy just to log in on Instagram on your phone and tap 3 buttons. Now you got to do those 3 buttons on your desktop to avoid those charges. So if you go do it through your phone, the mobile app, do note it's going to be a lot more. I think it was like I tried to do I want to say it was like a $35 or $50 like 5-day boost, right? So $50 over 3 to 5 days. I can't remember what it was exactly, but it was like $15 to $20 extra. And I was like, what is this? And then I saw like a big thing. It says like, if you do not want to pay this fee, go to the desktop. And I was like, what? This is wild. So if you are boosting, go to Instagram.com on your computer, or possibly your mobile browser. Maybe try that if it doesn't like, make you try to log in through the app. So do that instead.
Tip of the day, save that money. That's right.
Yeah, I think this is a great segue. And if you don't have it pulled up, I'll give you a second. But you shared Neil Patel's kind of breakdown on analyzing the 15,000 different Instagram accounts. They always have great studies because of Uber suggests, I would assume, in the amount of clients they actually work for. They have different tiers on their research. But they always have such great analytic tools. And you sent this over to me, and I know they analyzed over 15,000. First of all, just 15,000 accounts. I know a couple of quick highlights here. Just let me know if you have it pulled up. They said we analyzed 15,000 Instagram accounts to determine how often you should post for optimal account growth. Okay, you got there. Stories, 4 to 7 times a day. That one's interesting, and I'll come back to that in a second. Reels, 3 to 7 times a week. Images, 2 to 4 times a week. Collabs, 1 time a week. Lives, 1 to 2 times a week. Carousels, once per week. Comments, 9 to 38 times a day. DMs, try to respond to everybody. We don't really have data on DMs, but it is kind to respond to anyone who messages you. Great people over there. It may seem like a lot of work, but it isn't. Honestly, the stories one is very interesting to me because I've seen people say to not necessarily post daily on stories, but to let stories run out now. Right. So you post whatever your series is, your 4 to 10 stories, let that 24 hours expire and then do it again. Does that make sense? Like what I'm saying, does that make sense? Versus like you always have 4 to 7 stories up.
It does. I've seen another angle of that, which is stories for 6 consecutive days, and then a 1 day a week of essentially a story detox to let everything clear out, and then to go back in. I haven't seen it as 24 on, 24 off. I've seen it as like the detox day.
All the algorithms, man.
Test.
Yeah. Which one of these stood out to you?
Honestly, man, the collab, and I'm wondering, is it that they saw collaborations of an average a week, or you have posts that, or you have accounts that do a lot of collaboration that get a lot of reach, and then you have some who don't do it all, probably more who don't do it all, and it drags it to once a week. That's what I'm interested in. Like, the reels, sure, 3 to 7 times a week makes sense. Instagram's forcing everyone to go to reels. That makes a ton of sense. Carousels, still big, especially if they're 8, 9, or 10 slides long. Doing that once a week, that makes a ton of sense. That should probably be repurposed from something else that you guys have done. But the collabs and the lives, man, those are kind of surprising. And I don't think that's optimal data. I think that's the mean of everyone that they've done. I think that going live, 2 to 3 times a week and collaborating 2 times a week would probably get growth out there quicker and higher. But that's just an opinion, right? That's just a guess. Collabs are huge for growing your account because you're exposing yourself to an entirely new audience that you don't have. It is really easy to see how if you collaborate more often than you don't, you will get more exposure and more opportunity to bring new eyes and ears into your audience. So those are the things that interest me and that I'm not going to call BS on, but I'm going to call lack of complete context on.
Yeah, I think you're right. Collabs was interesting to me too. I know because of Vital Coaching is a great example. We have tons of coaches, right? And it's very easy for that Instagram account just to collab with a different coach every week, right? And then just to do that. And we actually saw numbers start to decrease on that. We were doing it so frequently. And so it goes into, is this algorithm thing? Is this just because the audience thing? You would just initially think, like, for example, if it's just a bunch of transformation posts, like, why does it matter if it's collaborations or not, right? Same thing. We would just repurpose that. So it is interesting. Collaboration stood out to me. As well as, still saying like, hey, you should be putting up images. You should be still putting up carousels, while carousels went from like an everyday thing to now just a once a week thing. Wah, wah, wah. It is interesting because I would have assumed they were just like, yeah, you need to post reels every single day. It's going to also. Oh, good.
I think it's just, this is the average of what they saw.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we see carousels collabs once a week, I think it's so many people just don't do those things anymore, and it drives it down.
100%. And I just remind everybody, it's all based on your audience and what you want to continue to do. If you hate doing videos and you're like, this is the only way I can ever grow, and you're doing videos, well, then you got to stick with videos. And that's what your audience has just seen. That's how you grew your following. So get used to videos. I think that's also super important. I saw there's a gentleman I follow in the finance world, and he was saying, like, for 15 months, he had a team, and they were posting on X, on Instagram, on TikTok, and they just could not grow. But then he started doing like the reaction videos, which is like, in the bottom of the screen, somebody explains their side for 10, 15, 30 seconds. And then he basically says, yep, this is real, or nope, this isn't, and you should do this. Sometimes he like literally says 5 words. That's it. But his account took off after that, right? And now, he has a flourishing business. So there are ways around it. And my point of even saying that is like, it's all, trying to encapsulate lightning in a bottle, right? You're trying to figure out not only what you can do, but what's working well and what the network or platform wants as well. For instance, you and I keep talking about X because right now they are rewarding people for videos. They are rewarding people for long form content. And it does not matter if that is video format or written format or podcast format. They want people using the platform, and they want interviews. They want, radio, which is like their version of Clubhouse. I don't even know what they call it, like X Live or something like that. They want people on the platform, and they want you using long form content to keep people on there. So whereas I've seen on Reels, still wanting you 45 to 60 seconds for that short form quick hit, something like X is completely the opposite. And like, yeah, we'll take your videos all day long, but we're rewarding more the longer form content. So remember, it is also part of the platform, whatever they're actually wanting. Because we'll wait till next time. I think you said they also did one on TikTok maybe, and they usually release, every couple of weeks, some really good data. So we'll make sure to release some of that next week.
Yeah, again, just a reminder for everyone, follow Neil Patel, right? He just a great servant of marketers worldwide, because they have a massive team who just sits and researches and goes through data and brings all of the gold to us. And so if you want to get it straight from the horse's mouth, Neil Patel is who you need to follow.
Yeah, Uber Suggest and then Answer the Public are both his companies. And I think they were trying to like merge some of that together and utilize more in AI. But those are resources I use every week just for data gathering and to see what people are searching for and like what the trends are.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Answer the Public's huge.
Oh, yeah. It's like the number one thing when people join us. I'm like, all right, what are you going to talk about this week? I don't know. Okay, go to Answer the Public. Type in 5 random words with your niche, and let's get to work. All right, so Morning Brew dropped some knowledge on us. They said pricing for Comcast's big streaming bundle is finally here. So if you weren't aware, Comcast is, obviously losing subscribers. They're a cable provider. And so they're trying to figure out ways to keep people around. So they have announced a streaming bundle for $15 a month. You not only get Xfinity TV, you also get Apple TV Plus, Netflix Basic, and Peacock Premium. And just for your reference, Netflix Basic, I think, is like $7 to $12, depending on like when you got in. Peacock Premium is around $10 to $12 per month. And then Apple Plus, that ranges, I think, depending upon if you paid for like a yearly subscription. At one point, it was like $5, and then I think it jumped up a lot. So for way less than if you subscribe to them individually, they're now bundling those together for $15 per month. It's roughly a 35% discount compared to paying for each individually, launching at the end of this month. Is this classic no new riders, only new horses, Michael?
Nothing new under the sun. That's right. I would be interested to see what the contract term is. Is it a 2-year contract? Does your rate substantially jump in the second year? As soon as you're out of that contract and you go month to month, what does that rate become? Absolutely. No new horses, only new riders. This is offer creation 101. Put together the thing, bundle stuff so there's additional value, and then raise the price after people are on contracts. I think we did this song and dance 10 to 15 years ago, before satellites disrupted cable, and then satellites disrupted cable, then digital disrupted satellites. We keep doing the same thing over and over. And then whatever the new emerging technology is, whatever they want to drive you towards, they're going to sink that price. They're going to bundle things in. They're going to get you in, and then the contract's going to change. This is the blueprint every single time.
I would wonder, based on kind of what you're saying there on the contract, I wonder if they're also trying to like split advertising across those platforms, right? Because Netflix Basic means you get ads. Peacock Premium means you don't or aren't supposed to, but they change these rules all the time, right? Like it used to be no ads at all, and then Premium now just means like before and after, like but not during. So not during, don't worry about it. But before and after, we're gonna hit you with a couple ads. So I'm wondering if that's what they're trying to basically split ad revenue to boost everybody's sales from this, because there's no way like they just do this out of the kindness of their heart.
100%. When all of the streaming wars happen, someone's got to make drastic moves, and that's essentially what we're seeing is someone who has signed contracts because they know that they're going to get multiple revenue streams off of this if they share their audience, growing their network again. Yeah, I mean, with the exception of the get you in at a low rate to raise your prices, I mean, fundamentally, this is also what we teach people.
I was trying to pull up real quick, like even just for everyone's knowledge, like Netflix's annual revenue. And so this is according to macrotrends.net. We have here annual gross profit of Netflix from 2010 to 2014. Annual gross profit for 2023 was $14 billion. That's with a B. $14 billion, a 12.5% increase from 2022. That's a lot of money. But it's interesting because when you actually see the amount of money that they're paying out for all of these series and movies and TV shows, are actually not that profitable as a company. On the back end, I can't quickly find that. But I thought this was super interesting because this is something Gary Vee talked about in 2015. I remember him talking about social media in general and was just like, this is just a new thing. It used to be CBS, used to be NBC, used to be ABC. Those were your networks, right? And then eventually from 50s, 60s, that grew into what we had, which was giant cable companies, which you already alluded to, even the satellite companies. And then we had then social media, and everyone's just trying to get the same dollars, which are all from advertisers. Because if it's free, then you are the product. If it is free, you are the product. Just remember that. Mm-hmm. So now we have these bundles of these streaming networks, which, dude, I think we did a podcast probably 3 years ago, and I think we touched on this subject because prices were increasing of Netflix. And we always make the joke of like, when the economy goes down, are people going to cancel their coaching? Or are they going to cancel Netflix? And it's like, they're probably going to cancel their coaching before they give up Netflix, even if the price of Netflix is raising. So when you start to look at these bundles, yes, you're 100% correct. The price eventually is going to increase, right? Whether it's separate or it's together. This is what they do. They get you in at the low cost. They basically hemorrhage money for a while with the long-term goal of knowing, okay, in 3-5 years, we can slowly increase the price by 10% and walk this up to the amount we need, and we'll have X number of dollars plus all the ad revenue coming in. So it's not to say good or bad. It's just business. This is what happens. So just be careful if like you sign up for these things and it's just you're locked in to this type of deal, whether it's even phone companies. I know when I like re-upped my contract for Verizon, they were trying to get me to re-up like Disney Plus and all these other things, and I was like, no,
Nope.
no thanks, because they just sneak it in on your bill then. And I'm like, what are these charges? I'm like, what the hell's? Why do I have Disney Plus? So do be cautious of those things, guys, on your cable bill now or satellite bill. Look for those things and see, like, do you even know if you're paying for some of these types of things? Make sure you're not being double charged because of these subscription bases. So, man, I think it's going to get weird. I mean, you're seeing the fact of like Apple TV has partnered with several different companies over the past, and see them teaming up with Xfinity along with Netflix and Peacock is just super interesting because those are very different platforms, right? I mean, that's NBC, Apple, and then Netflix all teaming up with Xfinity. So I don't know. I think this probably gets weird and expensive eventually after everyone bundles into like 3 super bundles. And then it's the same old. People left cable TV for satellite because it was so expensive. And then people left satellite and went either back to cable or just ditched everything for streaming because it was so expensive. And you have all these competitors like YouTube TV. I think Roku has their own TV subscription. You have, oh my gosh, I was trying to think of the one that was all the celebrities did, and it was always a sexual joke, like for the streaming service for the TV.
Oh, I don't know, but I know that there's like 50 different streaming services now.
Yeah.
It's out of control.
And they're all doing the same thing. And then prices will slowly raise until nobody can afford them. And then we'll switch to something else or go somewhere else. I've literally canceled most subscriptions other than Peacock. And I have YouTube, so I don't have to sit through ads. And Netflix is just sitting there because my family uses it, and I'm about to cancel it.
Literally the same. Peacock is all you need. Parks and Rec, Modern Family, The Office, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. All of your comedy needs.
Got to throw a New Girl too.
New Girl. All of your comedy needs can be met for like $7 a month. It's all you need. And then YouTube Premium, because ads, seriously, no.
Not dealing with it. I now get a little upset when I like am watching a podcast or something and they put their own ads in it. And I'm like, dude, I pay money to not see ads, and now you're putting your own ads in there. Can't deal with it, sir. Yep. All right, I know we got to go. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to call it the worst offender of all real quick as we end. It's Amazon, who we all paid whatever $12.99 for Prime forever, so we could get free 1 and 2 day shipping, and we got Prime TV for free, right? Well, now if you don't want ads, you have to give an extra $2.99 a month to not have to watch ads on the Prime TV that you already pay for. So they are the worst offender of all.
There's that Progressive commercial where they're like going through the homeowner's insurance and the ghost is there. He's like, "You got bamboozled." That's exactly what happened.
That's exactly it.
All right, I know we got 2 minutes. I do want to just touch this on consumer psychology. I thought this was a fascinating poll. This is from a gentleman who like does a lot of Tesla deal hacking, is what he calls it. There was a poll put up, 329 votes. I think there's more now. I'll go back and double check, see if the percentage is still way out. But he asks a very simple question: what incentive is most important to you on a discount? And he had up there 0.99% financing. So guys, again, this is for a vehicle that's $50,000. So what's more important to you? Low financing, so 0.99% financing over 60 months, $5,000 off, free charging, or equivalent would be gasoline if you're not familiar with EVs, something else, or I'm not really sure. 38% said 0.99% financing. 43%, the winner, said $5,000 off. Another 13% said free supercharging. And then we had 2% say something else. what's going on here in the consumer mind to choose $5,000 off? Because guys, I'll just quickly tell you, the 0.99% financing saves you a lot more money.
Yeah, people don't understand interest rates and how it works, especially with loans and auto and mortgages, right? You're paying so much interest on the front end. And for every percentage point that it goes down, you're saving four figures, every single one. So if we can swipe 4% off the top and just be at 0.99, you're saving far more than $5,000. But people don't understand that. They see the one big number and they choose that, right? It's just like we've, as marketers, we've all ran the percentage off versus dollar off, and whatever the highest thing is the thing that wins, right? And so it's about perceived value. It's about managing public perception, which is all marketing really is anyways.
Yeah, that's such a good point. The $5,000 off just sticks out and you're like, man, that's a lot of money. But it's because you can't quantify the 0.99%, right? If it was like 0.99%, parentheses, $7,200 off, people be like, oh yeah, no brainer. So I thought this was super important to even say, because most of the people listening to this, product or services, like when you're selling these things, when you say 70% off, like that may get somebody intrigued because you're like, oh my gosh, it's almost free. But if you're saying like 25, 30% off of our blank, well, people don't understand what that means. You have to put a value to that. And that's why value stacking actually does work, even though a lot of times it means that the person doing it is technically lying. There is ethical ways to value stack what things would actually be and to show, yes, it's 70% off, but that also means it's $5,000 off. It's $500 off. It's $50,000 off, whatever that thing is. So just remember, on the whole, if you guys are advertising things, discounts that say the actual number value probably are a better way to lean, or at least stack both, before just thinking of you saying 30% off means everyone's going to buy, because people don't know what that means.
Two lessons here. Number one, this is all about clear communication of the value that you provide, right? All sales and marketing is mastery of communication to the public and to the individual. Number two, I hope that you're also running these polls in your stories on Instagram or wherever, where you're asking potential clients what are the most important things to them, because people love to participate in polls, and social media will actually drive more people to your stories to get more engagement when you put them up consistently. It's called market research. If you're not doing it and you want to know what it is that your people are interested, or your audience, start asking.
That's such a good point. You used to do that all the time. We both used to do that, but it's great ways to get questions, to get consumer insight. Who does follow you? What are their interests? Where are they at? Because I will say, the one thing that you and I talked about beforehand, offline, was that the $5,000 off or something like that is if someone's going to actually pay for the thing up front, right? And they don't need the financing. So if you have a coaching program and you allow people to pay over X amount of months, interest free, great. If you work with a third party that finances that, then that's where things like that would then come into play as well. So put up your market research. That should be a challenge. If anyone puts up market research and shows us before we go live next week, maybe we'll enter you to win a gift card. Let's see if anyone's listening. All right, guys, that is a wrap for today. Any final words of wisdom before we go, Michael?
Get to work.
You heard it here first. Have a great day, everybody.
See you guys.